Musicians are drowning in secret battles, crushing self-doubt, jealousy, and the need for validation. But here's the truth no one ever tells you. You're not alone in these things, and you can conquer them. In this video, I'm revealing the struggles that most musicians are too afraid to admit and how you can turn those vulnerabilities into unstoppable confidence. And this just may be the breakthrough that you've been waiting for to finally break through from the pressure and thrive in your music career. Look, I get it. Being a musician isn't easy, and it sometimes feels like you're the only one fighting these inner battles. Like you have people telling you that what you do isn't a real job. Sometimes it's people really close to you in your own family. You look on social media and everyone else seems to be doing much better than you. And to top it all off, finding good gigs is really hard these days. But the truth is, every musician, from beginner to pro, deal with these same issues and emotions. And there are really 5 of them that top the list. And the 5th one is the absolute worst that we got to get a handle on. So make sure you stick around to hear that. So I remember this time I was playing this gig, and the gig was this big public event that I had invited a lot of my family and friends to. And of course, since I had invited them, I wanted to show off and show my stuff because a lot of them hadn't heard me play in a while. So I practiced really hard and got the music down and all of that. But for some reason, the day of the gig, my mood was just really bad and I wasn't feeling it. I don't know if I had woke up on the wrong side of the bed or what, but I just wasn't feeling things that day in general. So we get to the gig and I'm starting to feel a little self-conscious because I know when I'm not feeling stuff, I don't play my best. But we did the gig and it went over as well as it could, although I didn't think I did my absolute best. So we end the gig and I'm relieved that at least hopefully my not feeling it wasn't noticeable in my playing. But you know how when you're playing to a crowd and there's a lot of other musicians also in that crowd and they come up to you after you play? So while I'm coming off the stage, there's another musician walking up to me, greeting me and saying those words of, hey man, y'all sound great and all this. But this is what he said to me. He said, y'all sound really good, but something was missing. But that one little comment stuck with me for days. I felt like I had been knocked down, even though it wasn't a direct insult to me. I just felt like what he was talking about or whatever he was talking about was my fault. And if you've had a comment to you like that stuck with you in that manner, let me know in the comments. But what I realized is this first secret that we musicians really never share, and that is we wear our feelings on our shoulders and we hurt really easy. And it's because as musicians, our art is personal to us. But what I've done to remedy this is to simply establish emotional boundaries and understand that every reaction and every comment about something is not a reflection of my self-worth as a musician. And it's helped me be able to separate the noise from the stuff that actually helps me grow. And this is a way that you can deal with that kind of stuff too. But it doesn't stop there because there's another really common struggle. So in my early days and even into the mid stages of my music career, one of the biggest reasons as to why I love playing and performing is to get love from the audiences. I loved hearing them tell me how good I was and how good I sounded and all of that. And it would happen quite a bit. But there was this one time where it didn't. So I had recently met this chick I was interested in, and I had invited her to one of my shows. And of course, I was going overboard to try to play well and impress her and all of that, right? I was doing all of the things that I teach musicians not to do now. I was doing overly long solos. I was being overly animated on stage. I was playing super loud so my instrument could be heard over everyone else's and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it was a really good night musically. I was doing overly long solos, but they were killer solos. My keys were too loud, but the sound system was amazing, so it sounded really good. So I felt really good about the performance. Now, mind you, the girl I had invited was in the audience, but I couldn't see her. I could only see her silhouette because, You know how it is when the room you're playing in is dark and then they have a spotlight on the stage. All you can see is the lighting so the audience can see you, but you can't really see them. So I had no idea at all if she or any of the audience members was really digging what I was doing or the band was doing as a whole. So we go on break and I immediately go up to her like a dog that's looking to be patted on his head. And I'm waiting for her to say oh my God, you guys did so well. You sound so great and all of that. She did not say a single word about it. She started making conversation about something else. And the whole time I was sitting there listening hello. And I honestly don't even remember if she said anything about it at all, even after that day. But what that situation made me realize is this next secret that I've seen not only in myself and so many other musicians since then, is that we have this really strong need for compliments and feedback. We're kind of like plants, and compliments are like the sunlight that we need on ourselves to grow. But it's also true that we need to develop strong roots like plants, so when those compliments are not there, that we remain strong and we continue to grow. And an easy way that I do this and that I teach other musicians to do as well is to just start complimenting yourself. Like after a show, I'll get off the stage, or when I get home later that evening, I'll find something that I really like that I did during that show, and I'll tell myself, oh man, you killed it on that. It's a really small habit, but it's something that will help shift your mindset to a self-confidence type of thing. Now, I remember when I first moved to the city that I lived in now, and one of my best friends that I had grown up with had already moved to this city. And so when I was getting ready to move, I reached out to him to kind of find out what the city was like, particularly like the music scene, right? And I remember he hyped it up and told me about some of the best musicians I would ever hear or come across lived in this city. But it was one particular musician that was stupid good that he was telling me about. And this dude was a keys player. So I was really anxious to meet him when I moved to the city. And as it turns out, this guy and my homie ended up playing at a church together. And this guy was on organ while my homie was on keys. And he would tell me about, when they would be in service and stuff, this guy would be playing all of this out of this world crazy stuff on organ. So much so that it was hard for him to keep up. And I remember my homie telling me about how small he would feel in situations like that. And, that kind of situation will make the best of us feel insecure. And as a result of that, my homeboy ended up quitting over this next thing that we musicians really never share. And that is, we do get intimidated and jealous of other musicians who we think are better than us. And I think my homie did what was best for him in that situation, but it's 100 times worse for musicians today because of social media. Musicians who are better than you get thrown in your face almost on a daily basis. But social media also presents a unique opportunity as well. Because what I always say is one of the best ways to solve being jealous and intimidated by musicians who are better than you is to reach out to them and ask them for their secrets. It's a really great way to not only grow and learn, but establish friendships and collaborations as well, which are two things you absolutely need to be a successful musician. Now, being a musician is a lot like speaking a language that not a lot of people understand. I mean, we say that music is a universal language, but being a musician is not. The amount of time that we pour into our crafts and the sacrifices that we make in order to get better and be successful as musicians sort of makes us think and see the world a lot differently than other people. And because many people see what we do as musicians as just a hobby or not a real job, they tend to not take us seriously. It would be really difficult to be in a room full of, say, professional doctors and lawyers and have one of them come up and ask you what you do and you say, oh, I'm a musician. You could probably just feel the judgment coming from them without them even saying anything. But because things are this way, it gives us musicians this other thing that we never really share, and that is that we have a fear of being misunderstood. And this taps back into the second thing I mentioned, because a lot of times the only way that we feel understood is when we get those compliments. And this taps back into that second thing I mentioned about us needing compliments, because a lot of times the only way a lot of us feel understood is when we receive those compliments. And this can really make you feel isolated. But the way that I've learned to deal with this is to just be as authentic as I can at all times. And just try to understand and accept that not everyone will understand my dreams, my goals, my aspirations, and all of that. And that's okay. I just focus on trying to connect with those who do resonate with me in all of those areas, rather than just try to be universally liked. And I think this is the best way you can deal with that too. Now, I promised that this one would be the most important, and here's why. So, about 25 years or so ago, I got a call from a friend of mine who was putting together a group to record an album. So he called up several musicians, and all of the musicians were great, and we came up with some really great songs to record. So we go into the studio and started recording this album on a sort of song-by-song basis, meaning like we record one song one week and then song two in the third week and stuff like that, right? But every time we got a song recorded and finished, the person who was over the band wasn't satisfied with it. So we ended up recording the same song like multiple times over and over. And I'm not exaggerating. This literally happened with every single song we were doing. And it got to the point to where not days, not months, but years were passing by, and we were still going through this same process of recording and re-recording this album. And eventually things just dissipated and the group dissolved because everybody started doing their own things. And now 25 years or so later, that music is still sitting on a shelf somewhere. And it's all because of this evil, wretched thing that a lot of us musicians deal with that we never really like to share, which is perfectionism. And here's the thing about perfectionism that I've learned. Perfectionism is like trying to carve a statue out of a big block of ice. While you're sitting and focusing on all of the details and making them flawless, the ice is melting. And soon what will happen is the exact same thing that happened with this group because of perfectionism. It will melt, dissolve, and dissipate. And the way that I've learned to deal with is to really just focus on progress rather than perfectionism. Just shift your mindset to getting better little by little, and over time, you'll be at a level of excellence that you never thought you could ever be. And although you may understand these hidden secrets and the lessons that come from them, you won't be able to properly apply them until you understand why so many musicians are still stuck. 92% of musicians are just getting it wrong, and it's not because of talent. And that's something that I discuss in this video, so check it out now so you understand what's holding you back so you can make a breakthrough.